So good morning, everybody, and this is the final day of this retreat. Tomorrow is the kind of closing ceremonies. So just to reflect on, like a retreat is highly organized event in your life. The 8 precepts, and then the noble silence, and sitting together, walking together. So the result is a sense of you don't have to go shopping, or you're not distracting yourself with television or conversations or chit-chat. And so the result of these past 6 days have been, leading toward a more tranquil, peaceful state that naturally comes when the sensory distractions are limited. But then tomorrow you'll go back to normal daily life, family life, city life, and everybody wants to know how to practice in daily life, because that's where most of us have to reside, in daily activities. So just to remind you, retreats are a great blessing to have, opportunities to step out of just the duties and compulsions of our daily life into a highly organized situation. And the result for most people is a natural calming of the mental states. So this is just to reflect on the way it is. Then my main emphasis now, wherever I go, whether it's here in Singapore or in England or Thailand, the emphasis is on trusting awareness. When the Buddha was enlightened, he made this pronouncement: the gate to the deathless is open, trust in this. Trust this. And so trusting awareness is, when you try to think about it, how do you do it? And because we understand the words. So pure awareness is what we trust. And what do you mean by pure awareness or pure consciousness? That's why it's apparent, according to Dhamma reflections, apparent here and now, timeless. Come and see for yourself. So it's the immediate reality of presence here and now. You don't develop pure consciousness, it's already here and now. It's not something that you have to get or find. It's not an object of the senses. And the best way to recognize it, to trust it, is to just reflect, whether you're here at the temple or in your home in Singapore. Your consciousness is the same. Pure consciousness isn't a kind of the thing you have, especially on retreats at Buddhist monasteries, nor is it absent when you go home, go to work, and live your daily life. It's apparent here and now, whatever state you're in, whether you're young or old, male or female, sick or healthy. So that's why right now, just whatever you're being just aware of, the body is like this. So you're kind of not trying to find the body, because the body's here and now, but it's a very sensitive form, so it's not always the same. But at this moment, each one is sitting, and it's like this. And you kind of, these words is like this. Notice that it's just pointing to the here and now. It's not saying whether you're comfortable or in pain, or it's not, it's not judging, it's not describing, it has no quality to it other than here and now awareness. So in the Buddha taught this kind of teaching, awareness here and now. And like suffering is to be understood, not judged as where we tend to take suffering very personally. We blame it on the weather, on the others. But suffering in terms of the Noble Truth is like this. And when you reflect, it's like this. You're actually letting go of the moment, because you're not looking for anything. You're just suddenly kind of opening to the present moment, whatever state your body or emotional feelings are in the present moment. It's like this. And just practice that in daily life, when you go home, when you're at the office, just when things get difficult or confused, or you get overwhelmed, or you get criticized, or get complimented, it's like this. And in this way of using language, it's a reminder that this moment can only be this way. Because there's only the present moment is where we experience. Experience is always here and now. So we experience sensory consciousness through the senses, and we tend to strongly identify and make judgments about what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, remember, think, feel. So some of it's pleasant, some of it's unpleasant, can be frightening, can be horrifying, can be blissful, can be fantastic, it can be just neutral or boring. Those are qualities that we give to experience. It's a wonderful experience, or it was a really difficult experience. This is the thinking mind making judgments about what you remember or about what you're feeling in the moment. But as I've said many times, pure consciousness has no language. Language is whatever language arises and ceases in consciousness. Languages are made up by human beings, so they're sankharas. So when the Buddha said the gate to the deathless is open, that's a profound proclamation. I came across this when I was Samanera, and it really, I've used it as a reflection through 56, 57 years of monastic life. It's like a beautiful pronouncement, the gate to the deathless, and then question, what is the gate to the deathless? So a gate is an entrance, isn't it, or a door to the deathless. What is the deathless? And in English, we kind of, we can't imagine the deathless. But we understand the words where there's no death. But the ego, the personality, is very much attached to to what dies, what is born and dies. But the pronouncement gate to the deathless is open in terms of direct experience here and now for an individual being. What is it? It has to be here and now. It can't be something, you can't imagine the deathless, so you try to imagine deathlessness and the imagination, the ability to imagine, is all about conditions arising and ceasing. You can imagine any condition, whether it's beautiful or ugly or pleasant or unpleasant, refined or coarse, forms, qualities. We can imagine them all, but the formless, the uncreated, unborn, you can't, the imagination just stops. It can't go there because imagination is an acquired trait. So it can only imagine forms, it can be abstract forms or rational forms. But pure consciousness is not about imagination, it's about trusting that here and now it's like this. And in this, and then stop there and just trust your just awareness of the actual reality of here and now that you're experiencing. It is the way it is. And the conditioned experience is changing. So all conditions, all sankharas are impermanent. So trust that. Then you just let go of the sankharas and you realize the cessation. Where when you don't let go of sankharas, then you try to, if it's something pleasant, you want it all the time, and if it's painful or unpleasant, you want to get rid of it, then that is a judgmental thinking mind. I don't like this, I don't want it to be like this, or right now I'm so happy and peaceful, I want to stay like this forever, is thinking, seeing it in a very personal way, because the pleasant is what we want, and the unpleasant is what we don't want. But awareness is aware, not wanting something is like this. Like my reference to mosquitoes, not wanting mosquitoes is like this. And suddenly I'm just letting go of this desire to, this view that I don't want mosquitoes, and it ceases. So it takes patient endurance, meditation, bhavana. And when I first went to live with Luang Por Chah, Ajahn Chah, he told me he developed patience because he could see Americans were not patient. It's a society that wants instant results. you're not really trained in the American system to be patient, to be impatient and really get something immediately, or you resent having to wait. Americans are oftentimes very rude drivers because American can be very pleasant, affable at home, but when they get in a car, they start swearing at the other drivers and so on. So it's because of impatience. You feel the car in front is too slow, or or too careless, and you want to, it shouldn't be. Maybe it shouldn't be like this. But not wanting it to be like this is like this, and you begin to be the witness, the Bhutto, the witness of experience, that all experience is changing. And how does it change it? If you let go of it, if you let go of experience and don't try to hold on or resist it, then you see that the changing nature of phenomena is cessation, is nirodha, in Third Noble Truth. The end of suffering. So this is how you have your insight into the path, the Fourth Noble Truth, based on samadhi, right, perfect understanding. Suddenly you know the silence behind the noise. There's you're trusting in awareness here and now, and that's the path based on samadhi. I say perfect understanding. Because it's absolutely perfect to understand the path is trusting awareness. So in terms of English translations of samadhi, it's usually translated as right understanding. But right and wrong are such strong couple. If it's either right or it's wrong, or perfect has a sense of, there's imperfect, but it's not such a strong sense of imperfect. This is something you can totally trust, because it's what you really are. The deathless reality of here and now, where what you believe you are is an individual person that will get old, get sick, and die. And that's the suffering we create through these delusions that we cling to or resist. So we want, when success and happiness, good fortune, we want that. When we have it, we cling to it. We want life to be the experience of continuous success and happiness. We want eternal happiness, good fortune, good health. We want to be really healthy our whole life and not get sick and painful, or get old and wrinkly, or get poor vision or poor hearing. The personality, just as I've pointed to before in my own experience, my personality, the Sumedho personality that I'm a witness to. I still have a personality. I'm a different personality than Ajahn Asoka or Ajahn Vinita. Or Luang Por Chah was different personality. And then I met Ajahn Mahabua, a famous meditation teacher in Thailand. And he was a very different personality from Ajahn Chah. Mahasi Sayadaw I met, and he was a totally different personality than Luang Por Chah or Ajahn Mahabua. So what is the personality of an arahant? You know, you can imagine that an arahant doesn't have any personality. But when you meet them, they have different personalities. Why is that? Because the personality is a condition that arises and ceases in the realm of birth and death. Then a witness to the personality is what we trust, the Puto, the witness, the one that is aware of the personality. So in intentional thinking, which I've been describing and encourage, is I explore the personality, I witness it. You know, it's quite, I found it a lot of fun actually, just to imagine myself as, in extreme situations. You know, just thinking I'm the best monk in the whole world is something that arises and ceases rather than what I cling to. Or I'm the worst monk in the whole world. I'm the best or the worst. I'm a wonderful person, or I'm a useless, helpless idiot, or I'm just ordinary guy. I mean, American, I'm just an ordinary guy or an ordinary bloke, and that's more humble. Like I'm the best monk in the world, very arrogant and conceited, but I'm just an ordinary monk trying my best in life. That's still personality, isn't it? It's a creation. I'm not the best or the worst, but I'm ordinary. And, so we can create ourselves as humble and modest and politically correct and socially skillful, or we can see ourselves as bumpkins, hopeless idiots and fools. But these are all, views and opinions that we have as personalities. And so do we want to change our personality? Can you get a better personality? Well, there's a lot of self-help books available in bookshops and on YouTube, ways of being a nicer person, a better person, a more sensitive person, and that's very good advice. You can improve your personality through understanding it and making effort to be more reasonable, more understanding, learning to listen to others, be someone who's willing to listen and take in what others tell you, willing to be criticized and willing to receive criticism are very good personal qualities. So we can improve our personalities, like Dana Sila. In the Theravada Pali tradition, there's Dana Sila Pavana, the way of liberation. The very basis starts with Dana, which is unselfishness, generosity. At least, even if you're not keeping the five precepts, you can be generous. So Dana is highly developed in Thailand and Sri Lanka and Buddhist countries. Like my experience the other day at the meeting in the temple hall where the dana was offered to the sangha. It was very generous. That's a skillful means to live a life as a person, to not be miserly or stingy or selfish, but to be generous and kind, is encouraged to people from every level of life. And then sila takes more effort. So, because you have the 5 precepts as a guide for sila or morality, ways of, being responsible for what you do and say. Right speech, to not tell lies, to not deceive others, to not take things that belong to others, not kill others, intentionally murder others, to refrain from depending on drugs and alcohol, because then you develop, as a person, a self-respect with dana and sila as a foundation. You're worthy of respect in the society. You can trust somebody who's honest, whose intention is to keep the 5 precepts, then there's a sense of trust. Like in a Buddhist monastery, this high sense of Vinaya precepts, where there is, this sense of trust developed, in which you can't have that level of trust in ordinary life. Because you trust every monk is at least trying to live within the restraint of this discipline, which is about action and speech. Vinaya is all about action, physical action and speech, being responsible, not being selfish. But for lay life, the 5 precepts is the standard, which is a very wise restraint for daily life, family life, business life, working life, in which the sense of self-respect, because you're a trustworthy person, you're taking responsibility for what you do and say, and that's admirable in worldly terms. That's very noble and admirable. But then bhavana is no longer developed through that kind of foundation. Like dana sila is a very good foundation for meditation, or developing the Eightfold Path with perfect understanding. So this is just to see the wisdom behind this dana sila bhavana sequence. Because even in like in Thailand, where some people can't keep even the 5 precepts, most Thais, even if they're immoral, they tend to be generous. So when you go on alms round in Bangkok, you aren't asking people whether they're keeping the sila or not. You're not putting them on the spot, but receiving the offerings, the generous offerings that we get for our four requisites, what we need for survival. But trusting awareness is bhavana perfected. And that's why I encourage you when this retreat ends, just to be aware, when you go home, it's like this, when you enter your house, your flat, you meet your family, it's like this. This is what you're feeling. You can't help how you feel about it, whether you've missed them or haven't missed them, or you feel at ease with them, or you feel more stressed again. It's like this. You can't help how you're going to feel emotionally when you walk out of this temple, go back home, go to the office, meet with, go into the public transportation. It's like this. And that's a way of allowing your feelings to arise and cease, rather than try to suppress them or believe in them totally. Operate with speech and action according to the feeling, the emotion of the present. Be the knower of the emotion is like this. It's a condition arising and ceasing. So this is the real refuge in Dhamma, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. So a refuge isn't in consciousness, but ultimately in Dhamma. Dhamma is pure and perfect. And consciousness is the gate. Conscious awareness is this gate to the deathless, that is which is available to every single one of us. So it's all, that's why, in my lifetime I've gone through all kinds of doubts about myself, about Buddhism, about monastic life, about Thai monasticism, about Vinaya, all kinds of doubts about Sila, and on like that, because my thinking mind is a critical, doubting mind. But I've used those habit patterns, they're just habits you acquire. It's karma. But taking refuge in Dhamma, then you're aware of karma, not the judge of it. Karma is impermanent and not self. So when we say my karma, that's just a convention. We identify with the way we are. But what you really are, ultimately, is perfect awareness, Dhamma, absolute, deathless reality here and now. So that's a kind of wonderful thing to recognize. And within these mortal conditions that we're experiencing life through, what happens when you die is a common enough question. And then there are different beliefs different attitudes about death, about having a soul that transmigrates, or you have karma that makes you be reborn in a lower realm as an animal, or if you've been really bad, you get reborn as a preta, or into Avicii hell, eternal misery. These are all perceptions about the personality and the separate bodies and the self-views. So then in Christianity, you're taught that if you've been good and believe in God and Jesus, then you'll go to heaven. And if you've been bad, you go to hell. What is that? Those are the extremes of beauty and perfection. Heaven is perfect, is beautiful, is wonderful. But what goes to heaven? Can a personality go to heaven? I'd ask myself, can my personality, when the body dies, go to heaven? It doesn't make sense. And then, if I've been really bad, will I be reborn in a lower realm? Is a doubt, is a question. What gets reborn into a lower realm? You can imagine yourself being born into a lower realm, but that's not any direct experience. It's just the imagination about what happens when you die. If you've been bad, you go to hell. If you've been good, you go to heaven. Then there's reincarnation, which is, you get reincarnated, or the Buddha uses the word rebirth. Now, what is rebirth? Well, it's actually a better concept, a better word than reincarnation. Because rebirth is what we can witness here and now. We're always being reborn in daily life. The personality ceases and gets reborn again. So, the rebirth process is more about the sankharas, habit patterns that one develops as a human being, and then to regard rebirth as a kind of experience that we have as separate personalities, because the personality changes all the time. But then in Dhamma, it's not about rebirth or reincarnation or heaven and hell. It's apparent here and now, timeless. And then ehipassiko, come and see for yourself. It's like an invitation. It's not an order. It's not a command. It's come and see. Wake up and see this. It's here and now. This is it. This knowing the present moment is like this is all it amounts to. The moment, the experience that we're having through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body are changing. So all conditions are impermanent and not self. We're no longer identifying ourselves with the changing conditions that we are witnessing. So it's like this. In Pali they have a word dattata, which means it's similar. It's like this. In Thai it's Benyang Nieng. There was a famous scholar, meditator, teacher, Ajahn in southern Thailand, Buddhadasa, who was very wise, he was a very good scholar, a very good meditator, had a tremendous influence in Thai society. He passed away many years ago, but he was always giving these clues. Benyang Niye, it's like this, or the way it is. So, just to point out that the deathless is not just some negation of death, not some kind of ideal image that we create, but it's the reality of here and now. This is the deathless reality, this awareness. When we let go of our views and opinions, our doubts and fears, what's left is here and now. Silence, it's silent, peaceful. Now I found, when I first realized this, my personality didn't like silence. My personality doesn't know what to do with silence, so it kind of, it wants to put something into silence, make something, get something else going. Didn't trust silence because I thought it's just momentary, the silence I'd experienced in meditation. So when I refer to sound of silence, I became aware of that, but then my personality would experience boredom in reaction to it. So learning to trust awareness is that your personality is not going to agree with what you're hearing. It's kind of all kinds of doubts and judgments made, or views and opinions arise and cease. But then I began to trust the silence. I consider it taking refuge in the silence, surrender to the silence. And then the silence became more dominant than the restlessness, the boredom, the personal reactions to silence. They began to fade out, diminish. So when we trust in awareness it's what I mainly encourage now, and not rather than a meditation method or anything else, not to complicate the moment, but to encourage people to to realize what they can trust. Your body you can't trust, and your emotions are untrustworthy, and views and opinions, right or wrong, good or bad views and opinions, concepts, untrustworthy. We want our leaders, our prime ministers, presidents, kings, queens to be trustworthy, but they generally aren't that trustworthy. You can't take refuge in a politician or in a political system. But under what political system you have to endure? Democratic, communist, monarchical, what you can trust is awareness here and now. it's like this. So this is the way we can adapt to the changing conditions that we're subjected to through our lifetime, to old age, sickness, to loss of loved ones, to political upheavals, to climate change. It's through this simple gift that human beings have to reflect on the way it is. And the way it is always like this, but then the conditions that we're aware of is in constant change. Sape sankhara anicca, all conditions are impermanent. Sape dhamma anatta, Dhamma is not a personal self. So what happens when we die? Well, I haven't died yet physically. You know, so I'm still breathing. And so I'm expecting to die fairly soon. The body is getting old and feeble. But my refuge doesn't die. The refuge in Dhamma doesn't die. What dies is the personality is constantly being reborn and dying, beginning and ending. The body will die. What gets reborn when the body is dead? Well, the best answer to that question is like desire is always seeking rebirth. When you understand the nature of tanha or desire, you know, desire is always seeking rebirth in some way or another, either through attachment or through annihilation, through rebirth. When we're happy, we attach to happiness and good fortune, wealth, health and success. We attach to that, we identify with it, we become a healthy, successful individual, and we want to hold that, but then there's always a fear of losing it. There's always a fear of losing your good health or your fortune or being a failure, being a loser. That's the word of the day, constant fear of losing. In American politics, you know, so I don't want to be a loser, I'm a winner, I'm a hero, I'm successful. And this is grasping what you want to be. Those are desirable qualities, but they're impermanent and they're not self, you know, they change. You can be very wealthy and then lose everything. You can be very healthy and get injured in a car accident, and on like that. The ideal states of beauty, success, and health, and wealth, and winning everything is what we want. And so you're aware of desire. What you want is like this. And so you're suddenly aware of wanting something that's desirable. You can't help but want it. And desire is always looking for what we want, you know. There's kama dana, power dana, wanting good health and sensory pleasures and becoming a winner and a success, winning a beauty contest, becoming an Olympic athlete, winning the gold medals is like Gamadana, Bhavadana, wanting to get something you don't have. And then Vipavadana, the dana that is resisting. We don't want old age, sickness, death. We don't want to be a loser. We don't want to lose our fortune. We don't want to lose our health. We want the best. We don't want the worst. So the witness of tanha or desire doesn't desire anything. Pure conscious awareness has no desires. But when desires arise in consciousness, you're aware. You take your stand with awareness rather than with the desires to become a winner or fear of becoming a loser. And this is wisdom. This is what we call in Pali Lokuttara Panya, above the world. Lokuttara means above the world. Lokuttara Panya, wisdom, true wisdom, not just worldly survival wisdom, knowing how to operate and win and be successful in the marketplace. But Lokuttara Panya is natural to us. And through trusting in awareness, Lokuttara Panya, is present here and now. You witness the arising, ceasing of phenomena. You see it directly, its presence and its absence. And I encourage you to really contemplate the absence of something, when something ceases, the end of a thought, the end of a emotion, the cessation, when it ceases. You're not just resisting it or suppressing anything. You're allowing your emotions to be what they are. And your emotions you can't help. We're wired to emote about pleasure and pain, success and failure, praise and blame. So that's the wiring, the karmic conditioning that we experience. But Lokuttara Panya knows that is just a changing phenomena, the endless rebirth of conditions changing, being born and dying, arising and ceasing, beginning and ending. This is the nature of all sankharas. Sape sankhara anicca, sape dhamma anatta. Dhamma is not a person, not a separate self. So that's my advice for you at this time, and a very pleasant experience here in Singapore. The people are incredibly generous and caring, and I'm really quite touched by that kind of treatment in this beautiful city. So I want to express my gratitude and appreciation to you all.